Look at a neighbor like they owe you money. Look at them eyeball to eyeball. Look at them like they owe you some money and tell them, neighbor, with your prayers, all of your amens, the preacher wants to preach about, don't worry, Jesus is on board. Thank you. You may be seated. My Professor William Green of the American Baptist College, Nashville, Tennessee, says that worry doesn't just show up. Worry happens because of something that has happened. He says that worry just doesn't happen. He said worry happens because of something that has happened. He says that there is a need for worry because the reason you worry is because you can't control it. And when you cannot control it, it leads you to worry. Anything that I can control, I don't worry about. But when it's out of my hand and out of my control and I can deal with it, that's when I worry. Brothers and sisters, Dr. Fowler of St. Elizabeth Hospital says that worry is a disease. He said it's a problem and it's an issue that needs a solution. He goes on to say, he says that there is no medicine for worry. Because worry is an intellectual thing. It has to deal with your mind. And so the doctor says there is nothing that can give, there's no medicine that he can give you to help you with your worry. He says, but there is medicine that has symptoms to help you with your worry. For example, worry will bring you where you can't sleep at night. So he'll give you some medicine that'll help you go to sleep. He said, but how you deal with worry is not something that can be cured. It's something that can be replaced. And I am reminded to what my professor, Dr. Renita J. Weems, said, is that if you got God, you ought not worry. And if you worry, you ain't got God. Because everything that God is, it's a need for you not to worry. Brothers and sisters, I need to tell you that if you are looking at me today and you have God, you ought not worry. Because everything that God is, he is a replacement for worry. You can't have worry and God. Is either one or the other. Because my grandmama said he's a wheel in the middle of a wheel. He's a way out of no way. And so if you got God, you ought not worry. Brothers and sisters, there ought to be somebody in the building today who can testify, I look good on the outside, but I'm toe up on the inside. There's some things in my life that's been bothering me. There's some things in my life that's been triggering me. There's been some things in my life that I've been going through. And I showed up the day didn't want to come, but I showed up the day that hopefully that the man of God would have a word from God to heal me and deliver me from worry. Is there anybody in the building today who can testify, yeah, I'm worried about my marriage. Yeah, I'm worried about my ministry. Yeah, I'm worried about my job. Yeah, I'm worried about some enemies that just won't leave me alone. Is there anybody here got some issues in your life where it has made you worry? It has made you depressed. It has made you stressed out. Come on, don't look at at me funny. Is there anybody here that can say, I ain't got it all together? I go through some things in my life. My money funny, my change strained, my credit crippled, my dimes out of line and my nickels tickling. But I'm here today not because I'm worry free, but because I need to hear a word that'll help me with what I'm going through in my daily life. It is, if you're going to know how to, if you want to know how to deal with worry. Because friends, I need to tell you that if you keep worrying will put you in the ground. Worrying will put you 6 feet under. I promise you, worrying is a disease. It's dangerous. And brothers and sisters, I refuse to let what I'm worrying about kill me. Because I promise you that when I die, it's still going to be there. And it's going to go on to the next person. So I come to talk to somebody here who wants to know how to deal with worry. It is. The question that is to be raised is, Reverend, how do I deal with worry? How do I face worry? I'm glad you asked. The first reason that'll help you how to deal with worry is that you have to know that God has a plan. God has a plan. God has a plan. If whenever you do anything in life, it's going to have to come with a plan. Matter of fact, that's why when we were children, our parents would ask us, what's your plan when you graduate from high school? Where do you plan to go to college? What you plan to do after college? What you want to do, because plans are always necessary. But if you notice in this text, God has a plan for these men. God has a plan for these disciples, but notice that God's plan is not our plan. And our plan is not God's plan. Because see, we are human, he's not. And so his plan is always greater than our plan. But notice when you look at verse 35, he says, on that day when evening had come, he said to them, let us go across to the other side. And we see the plan because he said, let us go across to the other side, which means that he's the one running the show. But if you notice, it said when evening had come, which means that he didn't say move until it got dark. Y'all ain't got to let me try y'all. He didn't move until it got dark. And see, sometimes we don't move until hell start happening. Sometimes we don't move until we start catching drama. Sometimes we don't move until stuff start coming in our way. Is there anybody here that can testify? You know you didn't move until there was a sign of darkness. But I need to tell somebody, maybe that's a word for somebody here today, that where you are, your time is up and it's time to move around. I know you like them, but you got to go. I know you love them, but they got to go. Tell somebody, it's time that I move around. Notice, he said, let us go across to the side. You have to pay attention to every detail of word that's in the text. He said us, that English word us, which means it's not singular, it's not independent, but it's plural, which means it speaks for plethora, it speaks for multiple people, which means us, which means that if we're going to get to the other side, we got to go together. And you know what I've understand since I've been preaching and going to church is that church folk is the only folk that don't know how to stick together. Drug addicts stick together, alcoholics stick together, robbers stick together, but church folk is the only people that can't stick together. But the Bible said where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, I will be in the midst. Tell somebody, if you're going to get to the next dimension of your life, we got to stick together. Matter of fact, if the devil coming after my child, he going to have to go through us. If he coming after our marriage, he going to have to go through us. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, we in this thing together. But he moves. He moves with him, which means, church, I don't mind moving as long as I know God is with me. I'm going to say it one more time. I don't mind moving as long as God is with me. Is there anybody here that can testify God's been with me? Is there anybody going through something in your life like right now and you can testify God's been with me? Look at a neighbor, just tell them, neighbor, God's been with me. Is there anybody here that can testify through my trouble he's been with me? Through my hell he's been with me. Through my pain he's been. Not only you are not worried, because God has a plan for my life. Just look at somebody and tell them he got a plan. He got a plan. He got a plan. It may not look like it. It may not seem like it. It may not be hard, but tell your neighbor, the preacher told you that God has a plan for your life. Not only you are not worried because God has a plan, but secondly, you are not worried because they run into a storm. That's confusing, I know. It doesn't sound right. Because what do you mean I should worry because of a storm? It makes it seem like that would make me worry more because of going through a storm. It would seem like that I would have more trouble. I would worry more because of what I'm going through. But brothers and sisters, that storms produce faith. That you cannot operate through life without a storm. If we operated in life without storms, we would operate without blessings. I'm going to say it one more time. If we operated in life without problems, we would operate in life without a praise. If we operated in life without being down, we would operate in life without being up. Because you can't appreciate one without the other. It's just like beans and rice, they just go together. Are you following me here? And so they run into a storm. That's because, brothers and sisters, you are not worried because storms gonna come. Matter of fact, it's in storms where you find God. It's in storms when you discover who you are. It's in storm that you really find out who Jesus is. Matter of fact, you find out who he is because without a storm, you're dependent on your own self. But in a storm, you ain't got no choice but to depend on him. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, I thank God for my storms because I realized that I had him to depend on. Notice it said, and leaving the crowd. Leaving the crowd, they took him with him in a boat, just as well as another boats with him. But notice it said they were leaving the crowd. Which means that if you're going, they got to the other side, but the text provides information that said they were leaving the crowd. Which means that if you're going to get where God wants you to be, some people and some things you just got to leave. I'm going to say that again. Some things and some people you just got to leave. Which mean, friend, that God took them out of the crowd, which means they're set apart. Which means they're not a part of what the world looks at as simple. They are different, which means God chose them. Matter of fact, I dare you just to look at somebody and tell them, I've been chosen. Come on, that was the wrong neighbor. Find you somebody else and tell them, neighbor, I've been chosen. Tell them, and I ain't been chosen by you, I've been chosen by God. And I can shout today because I've been chosen. And all that is favor. Tell your neighbor, favor ain't fair, but it sure feel good. Look at somebody and tell them, I've been chosen. I don't know about you, but I've been chosen. You may not appreciate it, but I've been chosen. Notice that God saw them where they were, took them from where they were, and brought them to where he is. I'm going to say that one more time. God took them from where they were, saw them from where they were at, and brought them to where he is. Which means some of you can testify that when God found you too. Matter of fact, I don't understand when people say, I found the Lord. No, the Lord was never lost. You the one that was lost. The Lord found me. And some of you can testify, and since he found me, I don't act the same way. He's been working on me. Is there anybody here that can testify? The Lord found me. And when he found me, he's been working on me. Tell your neighbor, there's evidence he's been working on me. Matter of fact, because if you would have met when he first found me, you probably would want to sit next to me. Matter of fact, since he found me, I used to cuss a lot, but I cuss a little. I used to drink, but I drink every now and then. I used to smoke some weed, but every blue moon. I used to go off on people, but I tell them, God bless you. Tell your neighbor, he's been working on me. But I like it. I like it because they brought him from the crowd, but the text said they left the crowd. And what was in the crowd was people. Y'all ain't got them try y'all. They left the crowd, but this wasn't cause they was leaving. This wasn't houses they were leaving. But these were people that they were leaving. Y'all ain't got to let me try y'all. They weren't leaving cars. They weren't leaving houses. But these were people. Which means that if you're going to go to the next level of your life, there are some people you got to leave. When I mean people, these weren't no strangers they were leaving. These were people they was raised up with, people they hung out with every day. And see, often we hear people say that if you're going to go to the next level in your life, there's some people you got to leave. But I want to add something to that. Not only when you go to the next level, but when you go to your next storm, there's some people you got to leave. Because there's some people that can't handle seeing you lied on. There's some people that can't handle seeing you talked about. There's some people can't handle seeing you mistreated. So tell your neighbor, before you go through a storm, you gotta leave them. Only if you go, you ought not to worry because God has a plan because you run into a storm. But thirdly, finally, and lastly, you ought not to worry because God is in control. God is in control. Every now and again, God will send you a reminder to let you know who's really in control. Sometimes God will allow certain things to happen so that it'll look like you in control, but in all reality, God will pop up out of nowhere and tell you, I've been in control the whole time. And see, we're sitting here worrying about somebody that they didn't put in the White House as supposed to be president. See, Donald Trump think he in control right now. But see, in a few more later, God's going to pop up and let him know he ain't running nothing. Matter of fact, it happened with everybody else. Look at somebody and tell him, neighbor, he's still in control. Yeah, let him talk all he want to talk. Let him do all he want to do. Let him think he running the show just because he got money. But tell your neighbor, God is still in control. Look at one more neighbor and tell him, neighbor, God still in control. I got proof. I got proof. It's in the text. The text says, and in verse 38, that he was in the stern asleep on a cushion. And I woke him and said to him, Master, don't you care that we are perishing? The text said he was asleep on a pillow. But if you notice and you look at this text, the disciples wake him up and says, Master, don't you care that we are perishing? But when you notice that he's in control, you have to understand and recognize something. That sometimes storms can get bad. Sometimes storms can get worse. Sometimes storms can knock the living daylight out of it. They can just knock you down to where you want to commit suicide, give up, and throw in the towel. But there's something you need to lay an eye on in your storm. Is that you need to recognize that even in storms, God still makes his presence known. Yeah. You can say, preacher, well, how does God make his presence known in my storm when I've been lied on, when I done lost my husband, when I done lost my child, when I done lost my family, when I done lost my car, when I done lost my job? Can I tell you why? Because you're still here. Matter of fact, just look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, God still makes his presence known because I'm still alive. Which means God's been keeping me. Is there anybody here that can testify? I've been kept by the hand of the Lord. God's been good to me. You may not have a Halle Berry, but you do got a Miss Seeley. God's been good to you. You may not have a Denzel, but you do got a Bob the Builder. God's been good to you. You may not can eat filet mignon, but a mayonnaise sandwich sure tastes good. God's been good to you. You may not live in a mansion, but you do got a roof over your head. God's been good to you. Your child may not be on AB honor roll. Ain't never had to go to the jailhouse. Never had to go to the courthouse. Never had to go to the schoolhouse. And one of these days going to invite you to their house. Tell somebody he's been good to me. Notice, they get to the boat. They get to the other side. And Jesus goes to the stern. And the stern is where the captain is. Right? Stern is where the captain is. There's a storm. I told you that the storm just arose and they got there. And Jesus in the stern asleep. Which means that back in Bible day, the captain's spot was in the back of the boat. Which means that the disciples were in the front of the boat. And Jesus didn't find that out when they got there. This was something that he already knew. Which means that now that the storm is here, Jesus can see it all. Which means that's a note for somebody here today that just to tell you that whatever you think you're doing behind closed doors, Jesus can see it all. Which means, and you're worrying why people ain't attacked you. It's not that they didn't. God just been protecting you. You wondering why people haven't been coming after you and trying to destroy you. It ain't that they ain't tried to destroy you, but God's behind you protecting you. Is there anybody here that can give God a good praise? That I thank God he's been protecting me. That's why David said, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, he's been protecting me. Tell your neighbor, God's behind me. And there's been time the devil wanted to take me out, but he couldn't take me out because God was behind me. Look at somebody and tell him he's been protecting me. You look in Mark chapter 4, they was unfaithful because they didn't trust him, which means that even when I'm unfaithful, God is still faithful. Matter of fact, there ought to be somebody here that ought to be able to shout that even when I'm unfaithful, God is still faithful. Look at one more person and tell them, neighbor, even when I'm unfaithful, God is still faithful. Come on, find somebody else and tell them, even when I'm unfaithful, God is still faithful. I really try not to go here, but my soul and got happy. Look at one more neighbor and tell him, neighbor, when I'm unfaithful, the Lord is still faithful. I really didn't mean to go here, y'all, but just find another neighbor and tell him, neighbor. I said, tell him, neighbor. I said, tell him, neighbor. Tell him he was faithful on Friday. I said he was faithful on Friday. He was faithful on Friday. But tell your neighbor, tell him early. I said tell him early. I said tell him early. I said tell him early. Tell him early. Tell him early. Tell him early. Sunday morning he rose with all power in his hand. Ain't nobody happy but me. Is there anybody here? Is there anybody? Is there anybody? Is there anybody? Is there anybody that know he's faithful? If you know he's faithful, say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Yes. I know he's all right. I know he's all right. I know he's all right. I'm going to leave y'all alone. But not long ago, I was preaching in Chicago, Illinois. And when I got preaching, I closed just how I closed a minute ago. And I told him, I know he's all right. And an older lady came up to me and said, Reverend. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, why? When you get to the end of your sermon, you say, I know he's all right, and you scream the way you do. She said, Reverend, your sermon was good, but that hollering gets on my nerve. She said, Reverend, why do you holler like that? She said, Reverend, why do you scream like that? She said, Reverend, how old are you? I said, 20. She said, Reverend, you ain't been through enough to holler like that. You ain't been through enough to say, I know he's all right. I said, ma'am, in January, I flew to Nashville to go back to school. And when I went back to school, they told me I owed $8,000 and I didn't have $1,000 to my name. And I had to pay a $500 ticket to come back to Nashville. And I had to find somewhere to put my stuff. And I say, ma'am, The reason why I holler like I do is because God is still keeping me. The Lord is still sustaining me. And the only way I know how to get through this, the only way I know how to get through it is I gotta keep preaching. Gotta keep teaching, gotta keep holding on. Cried some nights, but I'm still preaching. Lonely some nights, but I'm still preaching. And that lady, y'all, that lady looked at me. She looked at me and she said, I know he's all right. I hugged that lady. I said, thank you. And she said one more time. She said, I know he's all right. I said, thank you. She said one more time. She said, I know he's all right. And when I was shaking her hand, she looked at me, y'all, and she said, Reverend, she said, you know what? I said, what? She said, say yeah. Say yeah. Yeah.